This is MMA Oddsbreaker. I'm Frank Trigg. That's Will Brooks. Will Brooks is getting ready to fight the ever striking, the ever improving John Alessio here coming up September 27th in Rose Garden in Portland. That's Bellator 101, right? Is that their 101st show, I think?
Uh, yeah, that's Bellator 101. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about John first. What's he bring that you haven't seen before? What's different about him than any other fighter?
Um, Honestly, after watching him a little bit, I think the speed of his hands, I think is probably a little bit quicker than any other guy that I've fought. Um, Other than that, really, I don't see anything that is extraordinary that I haven't seen yet. But other than the main thing that I have noticed is the speed of his hands. He's got a real sharp jab, and he likes to pump that thing out there very often. And other than that, I don't really see too much.
Do you does his what's besides his punching power? What's the next thing that you see in his arsenal? Is it his ground game? Is it his wrestling defense? His wrestling offense? Like, what do you see as his second best attribute?
From the couple of fights that I've seen, it seems like he's gotten a little away from his wrestling, which in a lot of his past fights he's had some pretty solid takedowns and wrestling defense. But recently, in some of his recent, I think it was against Shane Roller and Mark Boch or whatever his name. I
Yep,
forget his
Bocek,
name. I can
yep.
never say his last name correctly, but it seemed like he went a little bit away from his wrestling and was really focused on striking just because I think he was under the assumption that, hey, I'm fighting two wrestlers that all they can do is wrestle, so he was really focused on the striking. So I'm assuming going into this fight, he's going to be very focused on his striking, thinking that I can only wrestle. So I haven't been able to get a very good read on his wrestling offense and his defense.
Let's go back a couple fights and talk about Saad Awad. You lost in the first round to him, which surprised me. The way that he came out striking, it really surprised me that he caught you as early as he did. What happened during that fight?
I'll be completely honest about it, man. I didn't have I just wasn't there to fight. I was I was very content on where I was in my career at that point. I had went through so many struggles just to get to that point that I kind of just was I was in this mindset where I was enjoying the moment more than actually thinking about winning the fight. I was so caught up in being um, just happy. Finally finding a spot in my career where I wasn't worried about when the next fight was coming. I wasn't worried about money or finances or things like that, and frustrated because nobody was giving me an opportunity. I wasn't having to deal with any of that, so I got very comfortable with where I was at the time, and there were so many people who had me as an automatic winner of that tournament, and I kind of bought into that. I drank the Kool-Aid, as some would say. I
Yep.
got real comfortable with that idea, and I was thinking that, you know what, I feel very sharp right now. I'm not going to go into this next training camp and kill myself and overtrain myself, especially with the way that the tournament worked. And I halfway did the training camp, and it was obviously clear. I went in there and I looked sluggish. I felt sluggish on the way out. On the way to the cage, I was trying to convince myself that I was ready to fight, and um, I wasn't there. I wasn't there to kill someone. I wasn't there to flip that switch and actually go out there and hunt. I was just very, very, very content and very happy with where my life had ended up. And I think in order to do this sport, we have to be able to flip that switch and go to the other side where you're wanting to go out there and hunt and eat something. And I was too comfortable and too relaxed.
How was the financial hit? How much of a financial hit did you take by getting that loss?
Fortunately, it came in the second round of the fight, or second round of the tournament. So financially, it didn't kill me, But and plus, I've always been very good at saving up my money, and I have a lot of people around me that make sure that financially I'm doing all the right things to make sure that if I do lose, it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't put a huge hurt on me as far as the financial status goes. But this is the sport. We're going to win some, we're going to lose some. But right now I've made the sacrifices that I've needed to make sure that I go into this tournament at 110% and not go in there and end up losing in the second round again. I'm in a position now where I'm going out here and I'm flat out smashing everything that is put in front of me.
Good. You come in with a 10-1 record. That only lost was to Saad, and then but Alessio comes in with a 34-16. Obviously, he's the most veteran fighter that you face. He's a tons of experience. Is that experience level going to help or hurt him coming into this fight? Do you think against you?
I think it's hard to say because I really haven't focused on what he does and who he is and what he's done. I've only focused on what I can do. My abilities as a person, as a fighter, and that's where my main focus has been. And I hope he doesn't go in there and think that he's just going to come in and beat me up just because he's got more experience than I do. I feel like when I went to Japan, Kitaoka kind of had the same idea that he was going to come out and just blow right through me just because he's had a lot more experience than I do, and he beat guys like Carlos Condit, and he's beat a bunch of top level guys that are in the UFC right now, and I think he had that same idea that he was just going to look right past me. But if John Alessio has any idea that he's just going to go in there and believe that he's got all this extra experience and I can't bring anything to the table that he hasn't seen, and he's gonna beat himself if he's thinking like that. I really don't have to do anything but just train as hard as I possibly train and just show up and do my job. And if he's going to give me that extra edge and believe that I got no chance of beating him, then hey, more power to him. He can think however he wants to.
Well, Will, thanks for coming on here with MMA Oddsbreaker. I really appreciate you taking a couple minutes to sit down with us. Good luck against John Alessio, and I'll definitely be at home watching this one for sure.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Take care, bud.
Take care. Easy.